Part 101. My Ship Girl, My World. Author, Huangming Muji. Chapter 1005. What are you talking about? Guanghui couldn't react, because a second ago she could understand the conversation between the two people, but now she couldn't understand it. Qin Ji smiled, but did not answer Guanghui directly, but said to Helena, "This depends on you. Although you are my ship girl, you still represent the old school ship girl, so no matter what you do, no matter what choice you make, I won't be surprised." Helena looked at Qin Ji's unwavering face and said with some surprise, "I thought the commander would be panicked, but I didn't expect you to be so calm." "Haha, you once told me that you have tried countless times in the past, but you have been unable to change the outcome of the original world. Because that may be fate, or it may also be an evolution. Isn't this the case now?" Qin Ji smiled when he said this. "Actually, to be honest, I think I will fail this test." Helena frowned. She was now sure that Qin Ji knew a lot of information. But when I suddenly heard Qin Ji say this, I couldn't help but ask, why? Qin Ji breathed out, turned around and looked at the dark red sea outside. If the trial is successful, it means more responsibilities. The star sea is so vast, I really can't be sure what it will be like in the future. Although there will be help from others, the future that belongs to you or to us must be created by ourselves. Walking on this road will be very difficult, and it will even be far more difficult than when you pursued it before. There are even times when a bad decision causes losses beyond what we can imagine now. That might be the destruction of a planet or a star field. For me, although I long for that kind of life, it also feels stressful. If possible, I hope to take my ship girls and take root in my world. Just like our current Minato district, we are doing conscientious things every day, and we can have heart-to-heart conversations with them every day, without having to think so much. Isn't this kind of life wonderful?" Helena was startled and looked at Qin Ji with deep eyes. She suddenly realized a problem that they had ignored since the beginning of the plan. That is, from the beginning to the end, they never considered Qin Ji's feelings, and only regarded this trial as an inevitable choice. He believed that as long as Qin Ji passed the trial, he would definitely choose to lead the ship girls to find a way out in another universe. But what if Qin Ji refuses when the trial is completed? As he said, if possible, he would rather stay with his ship girls in this world or a world he is familiar with. For some reason, Helena felt a sense of loss and emptiness, and she suddenly became panicked. "So, are you ready to refuse to lead us forward, Commander?" Qin Ji turned his head and looked at Helena in surprise. It was strange to see such anxiety and uneasiness on her face. "Haha, so you didn't take this matter into consideration at that time, right?" Seeing Helena's helpless expression, Qin Ji smiled. "Although I am not a great person, maybe I came to this world from my own world and shouldered a certain mission, right? I don't resist this outcome. Otherwise, I would have told everything to my ship girls, and I would not be here at this moment, but in a certain corner of this world, working with them from sunrise to sunset, spending leisurely time with them. The time of my life." "Is that so?" A sudden voice came from the hatch of the command ship, and Qin Ji, Guanghui, and Helena looked there. "I saw a figure with long gray hair and a tattered battle robe standing there, and there were several figures behind her. Although several of them looked like ship girls, the evil spirit released from their bodies made Guanghui stand in front of Qin Ji involuntarily, showing off his ship uniforms and putting on a defensive look. Qin Ji looked at the figure and frowned. After thinking about it carefully, he tentatively said, "Maybe I should call you Enterprise. Or Key Point G. G is just a code name. Just call me Enterprise." "That is my name," the Gray Enterprise said. "Okay." Qin Ji nodded, stretched out his hand and patted Guanghui's shoulder, indicating that she didn't need to be so nervous. Then he looked at Helena and found that her face looked normal. It was obvious that all this was planned. So this should be the first time we meet, right? Although I know that you have been in this world a long time ago, I didn't expect that you would wait until this moment to meet. Because now is the time to show up, Grey Enterprise said. Shinji nodded, then let me think about it. Since you have already appeared, does it mean that this final battle is not simple? Is it as simple as just 4 arbiters on the other side? Yes, in addition to the 4 arbiters who appear in front of you, Lavos and Tova have also come to this world, Grey Enterprise said. Does it correspond to the Love and Tower in the tarot cards? Shinji narrowed his eyes. There will definitely be a fierce battle after the reward, right? Yes, everything will end here, Grey Enterprise said, but today I just came to see you. I hope you don't tell your ship girls about my appearance for the time being. Shinji touched his nose and said, okay, you guys are always mysterious all day long, but I hope you don't have to be like this when we cooperate in the future. Enterprise paused. No, and have you really met that adult? As far as I know, he only came to this world recently. I have seen it, and it was a long time ago. Shinji couldn't help but smile when he remembered the scene at that time, but this time after he came to this world, I only saw his Shinano and Akagi, but he himself did not appear. But right now, he should be in a certain space, looking at us with gossip, right? Enterprise was stunned for a moment, and then the corners of his mouth turned up. According to that adult's character, it's very possible. So, our goal has been achieved this time. Since you already know everything, please accompany us to perform the last scene, in order to commemorate this irreversible fate. Although Shinji didn't know their past, he still nodded. I think so too. When all this passes, I hope that what awaits you is a true new life. This is the best. My Ship Girl, My World. Author, Huangming Muji. Chapter 1006. At night, in Shinji's room, Guanghui was looking at him with a little emotion on his face. He was telling him to come and comfort me, otherwise I would be angry. Although it is rare to see Guanghui like this, Shinji is not stupid. Everything happened in front of Guanghui today. It is absolutely impossible to say that she does not want to know the truth of the matter. Such thoughts were like a kitten scratching its itch, constantly scratching Guanghui's heart, making her want to know more involuntarily. Haha, stop pouting, you are not formidable. When Shinji said this, he couldn't help but imitate the fearful look and said, Humph, Commander, I'm going to be angry, the kind that can't be coaxed. Seeing Shinji like this, Guanghui couldn't help but laugh. The previous anger because Shinji concealed some things from her also dissipated a lot. Commander, the way he learns to be awe-inspiring is quite similar. It seems that you spend a lot of time together in private. Ha, speaking of it, Kui can be considered my sister-in-law, and she is also a member of the wedding ship. Get along with her more. Isn't this what Guanghui wants to see? Shinji said with a smile. Although this is true, why do I feel something is wrong? Guanghui said a little bit. However, the most important thing now is not how long Commander and Awesome have stayed. Now that Commander has made it clear to Helena and the others, does that mean you can also tell me what you have hidden from us? What? Shinji grinned. To be honest, Helena and the others are one of the participants in this incident. They are a part of this plan. Although I now know the entire plan, they don't want to just therefore, it changed, so according to my inference at that time, even if they knew it, there would be no problem. Because from beginning to end, I didn't discover it myself, but someone told me that this person represented their future, so they would not hold them accountable. But if Guanghui wants to know everything, then you must stay by my side until the end of the war, and you cannot tell this matter to anyone except on this command ship. If that's all, then Guanghui would be very happy, Guanghui said with a smile. Indeed, for her, if this was the only requirement, then Guanghui would like to stay with Shinji all the time. After all, This way the two of them would have more time together. Haha, it seems that you are very happy with such a request. Qin Ji couldn't help but said, I can't tell whether this is a request or a reward. Whether it's a request or a reward, Guanghui can do such a thing, so Commander, what are you hiding? Guanghui asked curiously. Qin Ji did not explain it directly to Guanghui, but pulled her to sit down, looked at Guanghui and smiled. Guanghui, do you believe in fate? Destiny? Is it the fate that people in Chongying often talk about? Guanghui asked doubtfully. If someone asked me this question before I met the commander, my answer would be that I don't believe it, but since I met the commander, I believe a lot. Oh, then do you still remember my goal when I first became commander? Qin Ji asked with a smile. Of course I remember. The reason why commander became commander is to find a way to return to his own world. When Guanghui said this, he suddenly paused. Then he raised his hand to cover his mouth and looked at Qin Ji in surprise. Does it mean that the commander has found a way to return to his own world? Qin Ji smiled and shook his head. Not yet, but maybe there will be in the future, but if I really want to return to my own world and leave you, I can't do it now. Perhaps, it is precisely because of the guidance of fate that I can come to this world. It is precisely because of fate that I became the commander and have you. But you know, I am not the most special one. Maybe in other worlds outside this world, in a certain parallel time and space, there are the same people who come to the same world as me, carrying the same burdens. Fate. Ah, Guanghui looked at Qin Ji in surprise, because she felt that her commander was the most special one, but now he told herself that he was not. Haha, I met a person before. I won't tell you the name of this person for the time being, because as long as I mention his name, he will be able to sense it, and the next conversation between the two of us may become live broadcast. I don't want that, Qin Ji said with a smile. This. Guanghui was very confused. Is there really such a person in this world who can't even mention his name? Actually, that person has already solved the problem of the original world a long time ago, which means that the documents we found on the sea are all outdated. However, for the sake of experiment at that time, antiques in the original world opened up countless parallel worlds. Of course, our world is one of them. These worlds have a unified name, which is the numbered world. I believe you also know this. The information that the problems in the original world have been solved is not directly transmitted to the numbered world, because for the host, the numbered world usage data is a virtual parallel world. There are too many such worlds and it is impossible to notify every world in place. This is why the problems in the original world have been solved, but you are still fighting with the sirens. Qin Ji explained. Of course it's not that the original world doesn't want to inform the numbered world, but they are now focusing on rebuilding the original world and finding a home for more ship girls. The Rubik's Cube is something from a higher dimension. Human beings can borrow the power of higher dimensions. Although they can have powerful abilities for a while, the consequences are also very serious. The crisis in the original world just proves this. So in order to get the history of the original world back on track, that person decided to erase the traces of the Rubik's Cube in the original world and move all the ship girls and sirens to another world, one that only belongs to the ship girls. World. But if you want to build such a world, you must find a suitable universe and a suitable planet. Now that this planet has been found and almost completed its establishment, everything has been completed very smoothly. But now there is a problem before them, that is, the ship girl and antics are armed units anyway. If they are allowed to own the world alone, there is no guarantee that there will be civil strife or something more serious. Therefore, correspondingly, there must be a commander to guide them, so that they can have a goal of their own again. When Qin Ji said this, he paused and looked at Guang, whose mouth was open in surprise. And I am the commander they tested? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My Ship Girl, My World. Author, Huangming Mu. Chapter 1007. Qin Ji looked at the open-mouthed Guanghui and couldn't help but smile and reached out to touch her cheek. Are you so surprised? Guanghui felt such an intimate gesture and reacted, but she ignored her shyness and looked at Qin Ji and said in surprise, Commander, isn't this worthy of surprise? Going to another universe and leading all the ship girls is a bit crazy when I think about it. Qin Ji smiled and nodded, yes, this kind of thing is indeed a bit crazy to think about. My original wish was just to return to the world where I am, but I didn't expect that I would be further and further away from that place in the end, but this kind of life seems pretty good. Hee, that's right, but for me, as long as I can be with the commander, it's the same place no matter where I am, Guanghui said with a relieved smile. It's the same for me. Instead of worrying about things that are out of reach and touchable, the most important thing is to cherish the bond with you now. I don't want to pick up the sesame seeds and lose the watermelon. After all, I am your commander, and we are soul-bound together, Qin Ji said with a smile. So is it because of this that commander has been hiding it from us? Guanghui asked, but I think if you tell everyone this information, it may better mobilize everyone's motivation and everyone will work harder. Isn't this a bad thing? What you said is indeed true, Qin Ji nodded, it's just that if we tell more people about this important information, the reaction will be something I don't want to see. Because this plan was jointly executed by Antix and Ember, there were already detailed planning calculations, and the threats posed by these calculations can be expected when you are not clear about the purpose of this operation. But if this information spreads to more people, there will be more variables caused by the changes in the calculation plan between Antix and Ember. Even, because I already knew in advance, so they would terminate the plan, then the result would be somewhat bad. After considering so much, I finally decided to hide this information and let everyone face this trial with a normal mentality. Whether it is success or failure, keep a normal mind and don't need to be cultivated. Disturbed by the misty future. Is this what it is? I do understand the commander somewhat, Guanghui suddenly said, then after this battle is over, will everyone know about this situation? Well, now that he has come to this world, he is currently in that space, watching the development of the entire world. So when this battle ends, which is also the purpose of this plan, when it comes to the surface, then everyone will know. And at that time, there will be no more disputes between the sirens and the ship girls, and the world will not be threatened by so many battles, and will eventually return to the normal days before. Qin Ji said with a smile. That's great, Guanghui said emotionally, perhaps because she has experienced longer battles in this world and has more feelings for this world, so her expectations will be stronger. But Commander, something suddenly occurred to me, that is, your health has been getting better and better recently. Could it be related to this matter? When he said this, Guanghui blushed visibly. Qin Ji blushed. He naturally knew what Guanghui was talking about, so he explained, well, it has a certain relationship. How should I put this? The person I just told you was also a commander before. However, due to some encounters, he has a very powerful power. This kind of power is beyond our imagination. Even if he is explained at the level he is at now, you and I can't understand it. Because of this, he asked his ship girl Shinano to place a blessing on me. You can think of this blessing as a gift from gods to mortals. Because of this blessing, my physical and mental health are very good now. It can be said that I have surpassed you. Even all the powers in this world can no longer harm me. And it is because of this that I dare to come to the front line and fight side by side with everyone this time. Even if something unexpected happens, I can make sure that I am safe and sound. However, although I have such a physique, I do not have the strength to match it, so I can only watch and direct everyone like this, and cannot charge on the front line like everyone else. Guanghui was stunned for a while. Is this what it is like? But this is already good. For the commander, we are the spear and sword in your hands, so as long as your safety is not a problem, then all problems can be solved. Qin Ji smiled, so you don't have to worry about it in the future, at least at night. Hee. It's true. The commander's wedding ships are constantly increasing. I was really worried that one day they would empty out the commander. But with such protection, I can rest assured. More Guanghui smiled. Okay, the specific situation is like this. Just keep your heart in your stomach now and don't tell other people about this matter. Even when the entire answer is announced in the end, don't tell other people. You already know this, Qin Ji warned carefully. Haha, I understand. Are you afraid that they will be jealous, Commander? After all, the only people in our port area who know the secret army and the commander. If by the time all the truth comes out, other people will know that I already knew, then they will definitely be jealous. Don't worry, Commander, for the sake of your future happy life, I will pretend that nothing has happened. Guanghui said with a sly smile. Qin Ji rolled his eyes. Although it's not as serious as you said, it's almost like this. It's not for my future happiness. Life is more for the harmony of the port area. Although you are my first wedding, they can understand that I pay special attention to you, but at the same time, you also represent the royal family, and some key issues can sometimes make people confused. I understand, Guanghui said solemnly. As the person closest to Qin Ji, she knew some of the trivialities. Okay, that's it for today. Let's take a rest early. Soon, the war will officially begin, Qin Ji said. My Ship Girl, My World. Author, Huangming Mu Ji. Chapter 1008. As Qin Ji said, the next day, the attack on the Siren Fortress in the last sea area on the edge was officially launched. The atmosphere on the command ship gradually became tense. Of course, this tension was not caused by the defeat on the battlefield, but made people nervous, not as relaxed as before. Qin Ji stood next to the three-dimensional sea chart, looking at the changing conditions on it, watching everything with a calm face. Are you worried? Helena sat aside, holding her head and looking at Qin Ji's figure. Several other embers were standing or sitting, scattered in every corner of the command ship. Qin Ji shook his head and turned to look at Helena. I'm not too worried. According to the current strength of the port fleet, plus a dozen of your ember ships. If such strength can't beat an end price, to be honest, there is really no need to go to the core sea area. Haha, but you also know that we will not use all our strength before the final battle. Moreover, Empress' strength is not as weak as you think, Helena smiled. I know Empress is very strong. He has been able to become an arbiter and has fought with you for such a long time, and has not been demolished by so many of you. If you say he is not strong, how is that possible? Qin Ji said with a smile. Helena couldn't help being stunned, and then laughed. It's actually not what the commander thought. Let's take what we said before. Ember is a free organization, and what is accommodated in it is us who have become neither humans nor ghosts after the metamorphosis of the ship. Not everyone, like the Enterprise and Filong, is a meta-product of the original world's prototype ship. Most of them come from worlds with different timelines, because the meta-process of the ship is a change in nature, and the beginning of everything is an explosion of negative emotions. So you can imagine how long a group of people like this, who are already immersed in negative emotions, can stay together? There are very few people who often act together, and of course it's not like they never act together. But because Ember is a loose organization, it often cannot refuse so many people. For example, when we once went to look for the Observer's host, we only had Reputation, Counterattack, Filong, and Memphis around us. Faced with the cooperation of several arbiters, we naturally couldn't defeat them. In fact, until now, we have rarely fought together in battles, but maybe this will change soon. The meta ship leaning against the wall nodded. What Helena said is correct. When I first met them, I just briefly understood what Ember was and what metazation was. Sent on a mission. Gee, now that I think about it, it seems quite simple. A group of desperate people gathered together. How can we talk about cohesion and combat effectiveness? But now I feel pretty good, everything has passed, and what is waiting for us is a new battlefield for us to fight for. By the way, you should be able to recognize me, right? After all, I also saw another me in your fleet when I came here. Qin-Ge smiled and nodded. Although there has been a big change in appearance, I will never mistake those pink twin tails. Galicinera. Legalisonye smiled and nodded. I am the executioner from hell. You don't need to ask what hell is, and you don't need to know who the executioner is. You just need to know that I am your right-hand man now. As for the others, I will tell you more as long as you get my approval in the future. It's a great honor. Qin-Ge nodded. After the battle with Empress, what are you going to do next? Enterprise, who was standing aside and looking at the dark Red Sea, asked at this time. Qin-Ge looked at Helena standing aside with some surprise. Didn't you tell her? Helena blinked. You seem to have forgotten, right? But the commander told you the same thing, just so that everyone can hear your plan. Qin-Ge rolled his eyes speechlessly. Sometimes he really didn't know whether Helena did it intentionally or unintentionally, but now that this question was thrown to him, he had to answer it for them. The next plan is very simple. Now we have the control of the sea area firmly in our hands. Only Empress in Siren Fortress is left, so as long as she is defeated, this sea area will be completely controlled. In our hands. The next thing to do is to turn the spearhead and head directly towards the core sea area. This time the battle does not require a comprehensive battle, but to gather all the forces into one point and break through directly towards the main core, thus capturing the core sea area in one fell swoop. When Qin-Ge said this, he looked at the embers present and said, of course, you will need your strength to realize this plan. After all, it has already reached the final decisive moment. So from the very beginning, have you included us? Enterprise asked, her face still as calm as ever. Qin-Ge shrugged non-committally. I learned some past things from him, and I was able to analyze some things from the information collected in the sea. Although the original world has been saved, there is still some gap between you and Antix. Especially for you, if they had provided support at that time, you think that the following things would not have happened, so even now, when you and Antix get along, there is still some distrust. The company didn't answer, but the expression on her face had already answered Qin-Ge's words. In that space, although you have already carried out subsequent battles, the space is not a real battlefield. You firmly believe that all grievances will be resolved on the battlefield. So this trial is not only a trial for me, but also a trial for you. Explode the negative emotions in your heart and fight the last battle at the same time, whether it is for yourself, the future, or everything you have lost before. You agreed to this trial without hesitation. Even from the beginning, you have appeared in this world, which shows that you attach great importance to this trial. And most importantly, on that planet in the distant universe, it will be the paradise of the ship girl in the future, and it will also be the paradise of Antix. The process of changing from friend to enemy is very sad, but the process of changing from enemy to friend will also be accompanied by pain. Let this final battle resolve all the pain. This should be the best ending for you and them, right? My lord said that you can lead us. I was a little hesitant before, but now, I believe it a bit. Enterprise looked at Qin-Ge and said, oh, there is no such thing as who leads whom. In other words, leaving that planet to me to guide is a very difficult problem. All I can do is to do my best. Well, companies, please give me more advice in the future. Qin-Ge said with a smile. My ship girl, my world. Author, Huangming Mu. Chapter 1009. Fierce artillery fire continued to explode water columns on the sea, and the smoke in the sky obscured the originally dark Red Sea, making this place look as terrifying as purgatory. But for such a scene, the two sides fighting fiercely in the sea seemed to have long been accustomed to it. It seems that such a scene can more fully inspire the most violent side in their hearts, releasing firepower to their heart's content, showing a cruelty that is completely different from what they had before. Musashi, lead Shigesakura to suppress the enemy's fire on the left side. Don't focus on Empress's hull. Concentrate your fire on one of her main guns. On the battlefield, Bismarck continued to issue instructions, and relying on Gerion's protective and offensive posture switching, she had more opportunities than others to observe Empress's movements, so this scene happened. Following Bismarck's guidance, countless thunder and artillery shells bombarded the main cannon on Empress side, and there were more artillery shells to block her movement. When the shell was about to hit the Empress main gun, it was blocked by a layer of blue film. Chongying and others were not discouraged by this, but continued to attack. The shield module in the overload module can be said to be very shameless. As long as it has energy, it can defend against most artillery attacks. A large number of attacks were blocked, but some still hit Empres's naval guns. The originally blue-black naval gun was burnt, but it did not affect the gun's continued firing, but it seemed that the interval between firing was a little longer than before. Although this gap is very small, it was still sensitively captured by Bismarck. Confirm that the attack is effective and continue the attack. Clear. But to maintain such an attack rhythm, you need to withstand more attacks. This is not only a great test for the offensive side, but also for the ship girls on the defensive side. The more damage he endures, the more fierce Arbiter Empress's counterattack becomes. Moreover, such a group attack makes it easy for people to catch the concentration point of their own position, and the opponent's barrage will invade. In this way, the original they were under some defensive pressure and it was even worse. The opponent's firepower is too strong. Whether it is the main fleet or the vanguard fleet, pay attention to your position and don't concentrate too much. It is very likely that the defensive shield will burst in the next second. Prince Eugen, who was holding on at the front, said quickly through the communicator. This sentence is not meant for the iron-blooded camp, but for all current camps. But even with her reminder, the position of hundreds of ships was still too dense compared to a single Arbiter Empress. Soon, under the attack of several missiles falling from the sky, the already fragile crystal shield suddenly broke. The vanguard fleet and the main fleet were completely exposed to the attack of Arbiter Empress. Despite the restraint of the Ember fleet, the entire team quickly suffered damage. White Eagle's Baltimore ship has more than 70% damage to its hull. Please temporarily withdraw from the battle and conduct emergency repairs. The damage to the Kursk ship belonging to the Northern Alliance has reached the critical point of 80%. Please temporarily withdraw from the battle and conduct emergency repairs. For a time, reports like this kept ringing in the communicator, which invisibly put great pressure on everyone. Approved, the ship can withdraw from the battle when the damage to the hull reaches more than 60%. After reaching a safe distance for emergency repairs, it can rejoin the battlefield. When retreating, report to the team flagship, and cross-cover firepower between each other to avoid formation confusion. Bismarck's voice rang in the communicator, and there was a rapid report. Then, a large number of offensive formations turned into defensive formations, and dozens of ship girls continued to retreat slightly away from the battlefield under cover. Under the premise of following Bismarck's words, everyone covered each other when retreating, and did not continue to expand the original damage when the formation was relatively chaotic. This is something to be thankful for. However, such a result has a lot to do with Taihee's recent high-intensity battles and mutual cooperation and tacit understanding. Nowadays, the ship girls of Qin Ge's fleet are no longer the previous team with less combat experience, Rich tactics but lack of tacit understanding. The long-term fighting and mutual training have made them very good at covering each other and attacking alternately. Therefore, even if dozens of ships withdraw from the periphery for repairs, the corresponding firepower has not fallen. Huh, what an annoying mouse, Empress said with a frown. Although Qin Ji's ship girl is much weaker than others, it does not mean that she is immune to the damage caused by Qin Ji's ship girl. And they are all ships with contract souls. Although their attack power is not as good as the original prototype ships, they are still relatively powerful, and their potential is even more outstanding than some prototype ships. Although her own strength is certainly very strong, if she is completely let go, she can kill 7 in and 7 out of the formation of these ships. But obviously the situation in front of her did not allow her to do this, and more than a dozen Yanxianzun kept staring at her. As planned before, they did not cause her too much harm, but the iron chains and floating spells surrounding her all the time made her extremely cautious. The attacks of these embers were not comparable to simple ship attacks, and even she had to treat them with caution. Therefore, this formed a great constraint on her. Even if she did not launch a direct attack on her, she did not dare or could not reopen the formation of these embers to directly attack the ships in the rear. The battlefield was at a stalemate like this, and just like the original plan, her own defeat was only a matter of time. Even though Empress was very disdainful of such a plan and wanted to fight happily, she still hid her bellicose thoughts when she thought of everything involved in this plan. At this time, in the unknown space above the sea, Akagi yawned out of boredom, looked at the excited young man beside him with confusion, and said in surprise, "My dear, such a boring battle, can you also be so happy to see it?" The young man was stunned for a moment, then smiled. "Of course, I rarely see such a scene. Although the duel between the Arbiter, Ember, and the ship was all planned, there is no need to have such thoughts. Just watching this battle is very exciting. Look at the cooperation between those ships. Even if they face such powerful firepower as in praise, they can still face it calmly. Moreover, when the damaged ship girls were repairing, they were able to keep their formations in order and their firepower was not reduced at all. This shows that the tactical training they usually receive includes instruction in this regard. Isn't this all interesting? Okay, as long as you like it. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My Ship Girl, My World. Author, Huangming Muji. Chapter 1010. Although he said it was boring, Shikong still admired the cooperation between Qin Ji's ships in his heart. It is different from myself and others, and it is also different from my commander. Qin Ji was just an ordinary person. Although he had more tactical knowledge than people in this world, this little bit of foresight had become dispensable in front of real ships. Because this world was in a numbered world before, the ships existed as forgeries, and they had almost no memory of future changes. It is precisely because of this that Qin Ji's tactical cultivation is slightly better than the situation in this world. However, with the awakening of the ships, this advantage has become very weak, but Qin Ji still relies on his continuous growth to make his fleet so powerful now. Although Akagi himself is also a ship, he is more of a god now. The days of being a ship are already very far away, and sometimes he misses his previous life as a ship. When I came to this world this time, although I followed my commander more, I naturally had the idea of reliving that period of my life. And no matter why, as long as your beloved is happy, then anything is okay. Akagi, I have a question for you, the man said to Akagi with a smile while watching the battle on the sea. My dear, if you have any questions, you can just ask them directly. And are there any questions that can trap you now? Akagi said with a smile. There is indeed no problem that traps me now, but one thing is that I am now shackled by myself. In order to worry about the balance of the multidimensional universe, I cannot directly intervene in some things, as this will cause chaos in the universe. The man said, but now there is a problem before us, that is, they are very good at fighting, but for an interstellar civilization, they are like ignorant children. Finding a planet suitable for them to live on is far from the end of this matter, nor is finding a guide for them the end of this matter. Now that universe has entered a stage where the colonial craze is about to break out, but they have very little knowledge about outside the galaxy, and they cannot even say that they have entered interstellar civilization. What's more, there are still several fallen civilizations in that universe that are sleeping but very powerful. They still have a long way to go if they want to gain a foothold in that universe. They still need time and help. So how can we help them as much as possible without causing chaos in the UN dynasty? Akage smiled, hee, it turns out that, my dear, you have been having a headache about this problem. In fact, compared to the civilization of that universe, although Kanyang's civilization lags behind them, it does not lag behind them in terms of energy. The energy of the Rubik's Cube comes from a world with a higher dimension than that of the universe, so what they lack most now is knowledge about the stars, and we may not be able to help with this. Civilization needs them to accumulate gradually, and technology also needs them to develop gradually, but my dear, have you forgotten that there is an exception among us? And this exception can provide them with corresponding help, and it will not affect the order of UN. The young man was stunned for a moment, and the expression on his face became strange. You mean, Akashi? That's right, Akage nodded. Although that cat is very annoying, the rules of her awakening make her the most suitable person to do this. No matter which dimension it is in, equivalent exchange will not be an excluded rule. So instead of giving it free of charge and destroying the order of the UN dynasty, it is better to leave this matter completely to Akashi. Although she is a bit scheming, she is still very reliable in some aspects. The man nodded thoughtfully. This is an interesting method. Akashi likes to study some weird things every day. Although these things are not useful to us now, they are very useful to them. And after awakening to the rules, Akashi became very bored. Even if the store was open, no one would patronize her anymore. If we can find a consistent and stable customer for her, she will definitely become very happy. Of course, she still has to limit her strange things from exceeding the limits of that universe. This is what I mean, so that they can support themselves, obtain new technologies through the principle of equivalent exchange, and achieve faster development, and it will not affect the rules of the universe and the order of the UN. In this way, my dear, I'm worried. Akage smiled. Then I'll leave this matter to you. When we return, you can go to Akashi and tell her in person. The man nodded. No problem, honey. Just above the space, when the two people made a decision about the future development of the ship Girl planet, the battle in the sea finally came to an end. Even though Empress was very powerful, under such constraints, he was still gradually being consumed and defeated. But even so, it still caused great damage to the ship Girl as a whole. Although no one was sunk, most were attacked, resulting in a significant increase in the use of emergency repair tools. This is also with the tacit cooperation of the ship girls, allowing them enough time to push to a safe place and use emergency repair tools, otherwise maybe a sinking will really happen this time. Just when everyone saw the hope of defeating Empress, a violent electric light suddenly appeared on Empress' body. As the electric light suddenly exploded, the attacks in the sea stopped, and countless cannonballs fell. On top of the sea. Humph, you have passed use test, but this time the battle is far from over. You will be waiting for you at the core. If you want to break through the shackles, if you want to break through this world, come there. In the next battle, you won't be as merciful as this time. Empress said while looking at the surprised people, with a hint of anger in her tone, but the matter had come to this, and there was no need for her to hold on. Do you want to leave, Empress? Do you feel like you can leave now? Filong took a step forward and said, then stretched the blade forward and rushed out like lightning. But at a very short distance from Empress, the blade was blocked, unable to make any progress. At this time, a spatial crack appeared behind Empress, and a red vortex slowly emerged in the crack. Empress did not look back, but looked at Fei Long with a half-smile. "I want to leave, but you can't stop me." "Humph, go and inform her. Let us have a good fight in this world this time." As soon as the words fell, Empress' figure disappeared into the sea. My Ship Girl, My World. Author, Huangming Muji. Chapter 1011. Guang Hui put down the communicator in his hand and turned to look at Qin Ji. "Commander, according to the latest news from the front line, Arbiter Empress has withdrawn." Qin Ji looked at the sea chart and breathed a sigh of relief. Although he did have such a premonition before, the plan was also executed like this. But no one can be sure of the final result until the last moment. Now that I have received the notice, I can finally relax. "How's the damage?" Guang Hui smiled and said, "Except for some destroyers, cruisers, and capital ships that need to return to base for repairs, others still have the ability to continue fighting after the emergency repair devices have been repaired. Taken together, we still have 60% to 70% of our strength to participate in the next attack." Qin Ji was surprised. "Huh? I thought that this attack would cause more than half of the damage, but I didn't expect that the final damage rate would be so low." "Haha, as the battle continues, we are also growing. Although the firepower is fixed now, the experience of facing the enemy, cooperation with each other, and how to minimize the damage suffered by ourselves can all be achieved through accumulated through constant fighting. And now, the results are revealed. Isn't this what the commander expected in exchange for victory at a smaller cost than expected?" Guang Hui smiled. Qin Ji touched his nose and said with a smile, "Indeed, but the results are really surprising." Helena on the side smiled, "You should be used to their growth now, and they are now bound to your soul. As long as you don't die, they will continue to grow. Coupled with the subsequent development of new technologies, perhaps one person can shake a planet, which is no longer a pipe dream." Qin Ji shrugged, "Then I have to live until then. What I'm a little worried about now is that if I pass this trial, as a human being, my life has an end. When everything is on the road decades later, and I suddenly pass away, will it trigger something else? So I don't dare to look too far ahead, and I'll talk about the future later." The company shook his head. "You don't need to worry about this issue. We have thought of this since we started this plan. The reason why human life is so long is entirely determined by genes, so since the plan was finalized, the kitchen goddess and several biological scientists from the original world began to conduct corresponding research on extending human life. Now we have some clues, and I believe that we can successfully extend our lives in the near future. In addition, even if there is no breakthrough in our biological research by then, that adult is in charge of the equation of life. So for him, lifespan is just a number, which can be added or reduced at will later. Therefore, there is actually no need to worry about such problems. Moreover, I can feel the power of life from your body. I believe you have also seen that incredible thing, so you should know it better than me." Qin Ji nodded, "Indeed, but it is not a good thing to always rely on others. The future must be developed by ourselves. Others can help us temporarily but cannot help us forever." The company was stunned for a moment, then raised the corner of his mouth. "Sure enough, you are very different. If you are an ordinary person, you may place more hopes on this, but you want to rely on your own efforts." Qin Ji grinned. He didn't expect this sentence, but it made the company feel good. "Well, maybe I don't want to owe others too many favors. In short, I will fulfill my responsibilities, and we will too create our miracle." "I believe it." Helena smiled. "Haha, let's talk about this topic later. Commander, the front line is still waiting for your reply." Should we implement the next plan, or should we suspend it? Huang Hui said. Qin Ji took a long breath and said, execute the next plan and have the flagships change direction and move towards Area C. Understood, Huang Hui responded, and the next moment she returned to the location of the communicator to transmit Qin Ji's orders. Then it's time for us to set off, just follow their team. Qin Ji looked at Helena and said. Helena smiled and shook her head, it's not us, it's us. Qin Ji frowned, what do you mean? Commander can just watch the next battle here. In fact, at this moment, your test has been completed, and then it will be a battle between us and the Arbiter. Enterprise said. What does this say? Your battle with the Arbiter represents your past, but now you are still participating in the war. Now you are my ship girl, whether you are an ember or anything else. Now we all have to fight side by side, Qin Ji said. Although I can't really support you, I am always behind you and looking at your enemies with you. Although these will disappear in the future, we are together at this moment. And you don't have to worry about my safety. The company also felt the power of life in me. To be honest, this was the blessing given to me by Shinano. As long as there is no attack that exceeds her power, I will not die, and even without this protection, I will go to the end with you. Haha, I'm really a bit stubborn, but I do like this kind of speech. Algeria on the side laughed. Is this so? Enterprise pondered for a moment. I understand, then let's fight side by side. Yes, Qin Ji nodded and looked at Helena. Now, is it us? What else can I say? In short, even if you are protected, Commander, you must protect yourself next, Helena said. Don't worry. Although I want to fight side by side with you, I still know how much I weigh, so I will stay in a safe place and monitor the entire battlefield at all times to provide you with corresponding support points. Jin Song laughed. Then let's go. Deep in the core waters of the Pacific Ocean, a ray of light flashed from Empresa's body, and her ship, which was already somewhat damaged, instantly returned to its peak appearance. It is indeed worthy of being an adult. This kind of recovery power is really amazing. Empresa moved his hands and feet and said. Now that they have recovered, let's prepare for the next battle. Dreamweaver sat there quietly as before. They have now begun to advance towards the main core sea area, and the maze of the sea area will not stop them for long. The final battle will come soon. Haha, I've been waiting for this moment for a long time. My ship girl, my world. Author, Huangming Muji. Chapter 1012. Looking at the thick fog in front of him, Bismarck frowned and turned to look at Prince Eugen and Nizana. Such a dense fog does not look like a MICRO layer mixture, but something more detailed than a MICRO layer mixture. Yes, and I can only think of one person who can release this dense fog, Nizana said, looking at the fog in front of him. Arbiter Tempalance, Prince Eugen said. That's right, it's the Arbiter's Templar. Nizana nodded and confirmed. But didn't I hear that Tempalance has been wiped out by the royal family, Dong Huang, and the Northern Combined Fleet led by the commander? Prince Eugen asked. Such a battle is not considered an elimination, it can only be considered a defeat. It is more difficult to eliminate an Arbiter than you think. Nizana shook his head. That means that when we fought with Arbiter Strinkus and Hermit before, we only defeated them but did not eliminate them. Bismarck narrowed his eyes and asked. Yes, Nizana did not hide anything. Now that he has reached the final core sea area, there are some things he wants to hide, but he can no longer hide them. Why? We have obviously sunk them, and you are here. Why do we let them slip away like this? Prince Eugen asked with a smile. There were not many questions in the words, but more of a little curiosity. As I said before, it is not easy to eliminate an Arbiter, and it is also an Arbiter loaded with overload modules. As for why we let them slip away in vain, it all stems from an agreement. As for what this agreement is, you will have a lot of time to witness it next. Said Nizana. It seems that what I thought is correct, You have been hiding something from us. Bismarck looked at Nizana and said, what makes me confused is that the commander seems to have already known your purpose. Commander? Logically speaking, it is impossible for him to know our purpose, but for you to say so, it seems that the commander does know something. However, Helena had no reason to tell him. After all, once these things were told, the subsequent battles would be meaningless. Nizana shook his head. You'd better not guess our purpose. As I said just now, maybe you will know it soon. Bismarck gave Nizana a deep look. It's not that I don't believe you, but the commander is here, and his safety is the most important to us. We will not have any thoughts about the commander, and we have also joined the port area. The commander is also our commander, please rest assured. In addition, our goals are the same. Even if the goals are different, the process is still the same. Nizanor replied, which made Scharnhorst nodded. And we have come all the way, so we don't have to worry about this issue. The most important thing now is to get through this thick fog. Scharnhorst said, the thick fog in Templars is invisible, and with the ability to interrupt communications, it is basically impossible to contact other teams now. The only people we can rely on are ourselves. It is best for everyone to be careful about the situation nearby and try to reduce unnecessary losses. Bismarck nodded and shouted to the nearby U-boat, dense fog generally covers the sea surface. Now you are spreading out under the sea, looking for exits and enemies that may be hidden in the sea fog. After discovering it, they came back and told me immediately not to attack proactively to avoid alerting the enemy. Yes, Sister Bismarck. Several U-boats saluted Bismarck, then made a beautiful roll and dived into the water. Watching the submarines disappear, Bismarck turned his attention to several destroyers again. Most of the Z drivers were severely damaged in the previous battle against Inpraise, but the destroyers that can stay here at this time are all the best among the best. Z1, Z23, Z46, you spread out in a fan shape, quickly find out the situation in the sea area, and find the exit of the fog, Bismarck said to the destroyer. Yes, several people responded, and then quickly slid forward and disappeared into the sea mist in the blink of an eye. Mainz, Cologne, Leipzig, Nuremberg, pay attention to our flanks to prevent the enemy from launching a surprise attack on us under the cover of sea fog, Bismarck said. Yes. Just when Tai Shui began to set up defenses and explore, White Eagle on the other side was not idle either. Enterprise, the fog is too thick. The carrier-based aircraft cannot be retrieved after it is released, and the corresponding information cannot be seen. Essex waited for a long time, but could not see the carrier-based aircraft returning through the thick fog, and then speaking to the company. Indeed, I just released the carrier-based aircraft and tried my best to fly high, but still couldn't fly out of the dense fog. It seems that if we want to reach the core of the sea area, we must first break through this dense fog. Okay, York City said. Now we can only look in one direction and keep moving forward, otherwise we will easily get lost in such a thick fog, New Jersey said. Enterprise nodded, we do have to pass through the sea fog, and I don't know if you have noticed that where we just passed, there are the same reefs and islands as in the previous sea. These things are arranged on the sea. The cloth looks very messy, but it always gives me a special feeling. Special feeling? North Carolina asked doubtfully. Yes, it feels a bit like a maze, Enterprise frowned. The crisscrossing rocks and the thick fog covering the entire sea area are really a bit like the maze sea area we encountered when we rescued Helena. The company senior said this, and I remembered that when we came back from that sea area, we brought back a microlayer mixture. But the thick fog in front of us now is more complicated than the previous microlayer mixture. A lot, Helena said. That's right. So the things we encountered in the Mirror Sea before may also be encountered in this sea, and they are much more unpleasant than that sea, the company said. So, plan carefully. When exploring the sea area and breaking out of the fog, you must remain vigilant and monitor the surrounding movements at all times. Understood, everyone nodded. Although there is sea fog on the sea surface, the view of the seabed is better, so their task is handed over to us. We are the best at this, said the archerfish. Yes, although the sea fog obscures the information, once we discover the situation, we will report back in time. Bluegill nodded. Hee, let me give them some surprise, the big mackerel also said very excitedly. Enterprise nodded, then the task of exploring the path will be left to you. However, in order to prevent them from being defeated one by one, once you find any abnormalities, report them back quickly, and never exchange fire with them. Yes. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My Ship Girl, My World. Author, Huangming Muji. Chapter 1013. The sea area in the fog is full of uncertainties, but fortunately, with the advance exploration by submarines, each camp is advancing steadily, but there is not much loss in the sea fog. However, compared to other camps that rely on submarine exploration, the coalition formed by Dong Huang and Northern Alliance is much simpler. Helena and the others set off from the command ship and met them. So in the sea fog, they relied on Helena's radar to guide the direction. Especially on the way, the powerful fighting power displayed by several embers stunned everyone in Dong Huang and the Northern Alliance. Especially the gray-haired ship girl among them, who was called the Enterprise. Although she didn't talk much, the pressure released by each arrow made the ship girls from the other two camps fiercely raise their hearts. Throat. Bearing 124, the agent was found at a distance of 23 kilometers. The enemy ship is traveling at a speed of 34 knots. Helena turned to face the Enterprise as she moved forward. As Enterprise nodded, she took out her ship suit and shot the light arrow in the direction Helena said. The arrow, which exuded yellow light, suddenly disappeared in front of everyone's eyes and shuttled into the thick sea fog. Just a few dozen seconds later, Helena smiled and nodded. Hit, the enemy ship has been destroyed. Although this situation has happened several times, everyone still couldn't help but feel a sense of disbelief. Despite the precise positioning of the radar, how did it maintain such a precise hit in the sea fog that obscured the information? Miss Helena, I have a question that I don't know whether I should ask. Chopov, who belongs to Northern United, looked at Helena and said. Haha, if you have any questions, just ask them directly. As long as they don't involve some secrets, you can answer them, Helena said. With all due respect, the power you are showing now is completely different from the power you showed before. Did you do it on purpose? Or are you hiding something? Chopov said. Helena smiled. I can answer this question for you. Those who fought with you before did have reservations. You can think of them as restraining the enemy and letting you get familiar with how to fight with a fully armed arbiter. Fight. So that's it? I'm just saying that something feels weird. How can someone who has been able to fight with the arbiter for so long show only so much strength? Chopov was stunned, and then looked at Helena and asked, then does the commander know about this? I know what you mean. This matter was decided by us and the commander didn't know about it? But through the subsequent combat report, the commander still knew about it? But he didn't stop it, so do you have anything else to ask? Helena replied. No more, Chopov said. I guess if I ask some more in-depth questions, you will choose not to answer, right? Rather than doing this, it would be better to stop here. Haha, you are a smart person, Helena chuckled, and then looked forward. We are not far from the exit of the sea maze. It seems that although we entered relatively late, we are very likely to be the first. They're out, so you'd better be ready for battle. Although we will no longer hide our strength in the next battle, the enemy's strength will become stronger and stronger. Don't bring your habitual thinking into the subsequent battles. Otherwise, if the sinking incident occurs due to my own negligence, I will not be the one who feels distressed. After Helena finished speaking, she continued to slide forward, and Enterprise and others continued to follow without explaining or saying anything. Chopov raised his chin and smiled. Interesting, it seems that things like this are becoming more and more interesting. Jinhai smiled. Do you really believe what they say? Chopov looked at Jinhai. So what do you think of Miss Jinhai? Among us, you are the one who has followed the commander the longest, and from the beginning of the battle to the time when we conquered the sea, you have always been the commander's secretary ship. The corners of Jinhai's lips raised. Actually, we are not the only ones who are kept in the dark. What does this sentence mean? Obviously, not only Chopov, but also other people around him were a little confused by Jinhai's words. What I mean is that our thoughts are all in a small garden now, and we can't escape from this environment at all. Many things seem a little wrong. Not only is the Ember hiding something from us, but even the commander is hiding something from us. And sometimes I feel that not only us, but even Embers don't know some of the commander's deepest thoughts. That's why I said, we are not the only ones who are kept in the dark. Jinhai said with a smile. Jinhai is saying that the commander is hiding something from us. Yuxian was a little surprised. How is this possible? How is this impossible? Chopov said. Since the world changed, the commander seems to be able to accept all changes. And since the Ember appeared, it seems that he has no wariness against them. Promise them to join the port area and let them participate in the port area's scientific and technological research. Haven't you ever thought about why the commander would do this? It is impossible to conclude based on this alone, and even if Comrade Commander is hiding something, for us, Comrade Commander has no intention of harming us. Moreover, everyone has some secrets of their own. I believe that Comrade Commander, his purpose must be good. Soviet Rosia said, so instead of hesitating like this, it is better to keep moving forward. The future will tell us why everything is happening. Ha, as expected of Comrade Rosia, you are right. Instead of imagining things that have happened or have not happened here, it is better to move forward directly. It really suits my taste. April laughed. Road. Everyone couldn't help but smile, but they all moved forward with their own thoughts. At this time, on the edge of the open sea, Qin Ji's command ship was anchored. On the command ship, a special guest appeared. Although she was once a familiar customer in the port area, her appearance here now made the always gentle Guanghui alert. Why are you here? Qin Ji looked at the purifier in front of him and asked doubtfully. After all, he could usually turn a blind eye, but now the two sides are at war. Is she preparing to attack him when she appears here? I've been ordered to take you to a place, the purifier said with a smile. Qin Ji rolled his eyes. Aren't you going to take me directly to your core base? How do you know? The purifier asked doubtfully. Ha, is it true? Qin Ji opened his mouth wide. Yes, the observer assigned me a mission, and she said that she can see the battle situation in the entire sea area there, and can also contact your ship girl through our communication system, the purifier said. Let's go now. Qin Ji became more energetic upon hearing this. Commander, Guanghui was confused. That was the enemy's base camp. My ship girl, my world. Author, Huangming Mu. Chapter 1014. Hey, aren't you afraid that I will lie to you? After inviting you to our base, and then use it to threaten your ship girl. Seeing the cheerful Qin Ji in front of her, the purifier was also a little confused. This was different from what she had imagined before. Haha, when you were in our port area, we didn't treat you like that, so I think some of these things are negotiable, and from the time I came to this world, as a commander to now, in any human being the biggest conflict is the possession of the ocean, Qin Ji said with a smile. I didn't expect that your ship girl is interesting, but you are even more interesting. The purifier smiled and looked at Guanghui beside him. Then let's leave now. Let's go. I can't wait to see what's happening in the sea. Now I can only sit here and wait for the message to be delivered. And it has been almost a day and no message has been delivered. Shinji sounded a little anxious. That's normal, because now the outside of our core base is covered with the fog of arbiter tempolins. This fog is much more powerful than the fog we used at the time, the purifier said. I see, that's what I'm saying. During the conversation, a space rift appeared in front of several people. As soon as Shinji saw the space rift, he thought of the thing that the purifier passed through when he retreated. Just step into this together, the purifier said. Shinji nodded, looked back and held Guanghui's hand, smiled slightly, and then pulled her towards the rift in space. Guanghui did not refuse. Now that his commander had confirmed it, no matter what the situation on the other side was, he would accompany him throughout this journey. Watching Shinji and Guanghui pass through the space rift, their figures gradually disappeared, and the purifier followed closely. It wasn't until the three of them successfully crossed over that the space rift on the command ship gradually disappeared. There was only one unmanned command ship left on the sea, drifting there alone. The feeling of traveling through the rift in space was very strange. Shinji felt that the scenery in front of him went dark. When light appeared again, he had already appeared in another place. This is a relatively large platform. The platform extends upwards, just like a city. In this city, there are 5 huge buildings standing tall. On these huge buildings, blue data streams are constantly flowing, looking like light paths in science fiction works. But what was different from what he thought was that he did not appear on the sea or the bottom of the sea. Instead, he appeared in the air. Standing on the platform, you can see the endless dark red sky in front of you, and there is a vast ocean under your feet. But the strange thing is that the sky and ocean that I see always feel unreal. I didn't expect your base to be in the sky. I thought it was on the sea or the bottom of the sea. Looking at the magnificent scenery in front of him, Shinji couldn't help but said to the purifier who was following behind. Although our ships are shaped like fish, we don't necessarily have to live in the sea all the time, and the signals we can receive are best in the sky, so in order to ensure our information rights in this world, our bases are generally chosen to be in the air, and in the air outside the world, the purifier explained. In the air outside the world, Shinji and Guanghui were a little surprised. That's right, anyway, the things here are very troublesome to talk about. You can ask the observer after you see her later, the purifier said. It seems that her impatience is not suitable for introducing things to others. Okay. Shinji nodded helplessly, and finally focused on the 5 buildings with flowing data. What are those huge buildings? Host, the purifier said without hesitation, the host that holds our data. As long as the host is not destroyed, we will always exist. Shinji was stunned and couldn't help but nodded. I thought you would scatter the hosts around the world. The hosts in the main world are indeed distributed like that, but you also know that the previous world was a numbered world. There is no need to distribute the hosts like that. The entire world is under our monitoring, and there will be no omissions. Purification, the reporter said. Okay, then take us to see the observer now. I want to see how my ship girl is doing in the sea, Shinji said. Follow me. As the purifier spoke, he took Shinji and Guanghui towards the depths. Along the way, Shinji was like a curious baby asking various questions about the things he saw. Some of the purifiers would spot him on the spot. When given the answers, some looked confused. But for Shinji, it was an extremely novel experience, not to mention that Guanghui on the side looked curious from beginning to end, and of course more of a kind of vigilance. After all, he and his commander are now in the enemy's lair. There is always something wrong with relaxing like this. Finally, after stepping through a movable door, Shinji finally came to a place similar to a hall. At a glance, several huge screens were suspended in the air. In front of the screens was Antique sitting on an octopus suit. At the bottom, there is a huge sea chart, and a white-haired lady is standing there, her eyes motionless staring at the changes on the chart. The change in the door attracted the attention of the two people. The purifier was the first to walk in and shouted loudly. "Observer, I brought people here." As Qin-Ji approached, Antiques, who was sitting on the octopus ship, turned around with a smile on her face. She was the observer she had seen in the mirror sea before. "Haha, you are really bold, Commander Qin-Ji. When I was fighting on my ship, you just walked into the enemy's lair so casually with the enemy. I wonder if you are confident or arrogant." The observer looked at it. Qin-Ji smiled. When the observer said this, Huang Hui immediately stood nervously in front of Qin-Ji, putting on a defensive posture. Although he knew Qin-Ji was protected, his first reaction was to protect him at all costs. Qin-Ji smiled and put his hand on Huang Hui's shoulder, pulled her behind him, looked at the observer and smiled. "Maybe we could be considered enemies before, but can we still be considered enemies now?" The observer narrowed his eyes and said, "Haha, interesting. Could it be that those embers have told you everything? If that's the case, it's impossible for the host to not know." "That's not true." Qin-Ji shook his head, "but I know exactly what you are going to do, and since you have invited me here now, I believe you have already made a decision, right?" The observer suddenly laughed. "It seems that you do know something, but it is not important now. Welcome to the host, Commander Qin-Ji." "Thanks."